What's up, guys? I'm Matt Reisinger.
I'm Will King.
And we are on one of Will's jobs where he just cleared, what, 3 acres or so of property?
About 3 acres, yeah.
And these are not subcontractors. This is actually equipment that your company owns, right, Will?
That's right. Yep, that's it.
I thought we would take a little time and pick Will's brain. Owning equipment, doing self-perform work.
Yep.
I feel like there's a backlash in the building world, don't you, Will? Where,
I agree.
You know, for years, builders subbed everything out. The only thing they owned was a tape measure. And in fact, I've been in that position too in my building career and have kind of come full circle on that. So let's talk a little bit about the logistics, the financials, whether it makes sense for you to actually own equipment and do self-perform work on your job sites.
Let's do it.
Sound like a plan?
Yeah, it does. I like
Self-performing. Let's get going. Okay, Will, so 3 acres of property that you cleared, and I think you mentioned this took you 2 guys, 2 pieces of equipment, what, 5, 6 business days?
That's it. About 5 days of labor is all it took to
that
clear.
would, if I were to bid that out, I would expect that could be a pretty expensive bill.
Yep.
But for you to self-perform that, talk to me about the benefit for both you as a builder and for your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold, but the biggest thing is you got to think about control. You know, and that's, if we talk about self-performing as a whole, that's what got, because you mentioned a minute ago about how you were the builder with just a tape measure, and so was I. And I realized quickly there's certain things that you really had trouble getting done if you couldn't do it yourself or have it in-house. And we can talk more about that in a minute, but with excavation work and land clearing, that was one of them, because it, you know, people, when they're ready to build a house, they're ready to go. You know, and it's a great time to go. It's always now, right? That's what they want to do, and quite frankly, that's what I want to do too. I'm ready to go as well. And so I had been debating for a while buying a skid steer, which is the first purchase that we made in the equipment world. And, you know, I was really hesitant, thinking, man, that's a pretty expensive item. I mean, that machine in 2020 was about $75,000 new. And so that's
But that's gone up since then too.
Yeah, that was pre-COVID. So now it's about probably 85 to 90,000 to buy that. And so when you look at that price tag, you're like, oh man, like that's
a lot of money.
More than any truck I've ever driven, that's for sure. Yeah, when you look at the price tag of a piece of equipment, obviously it's very intimidating. But we decided to go and pull the trigger in 2020. It was late that year when we decided to buy that. And you know, I was so nervous, but honestly, it's been busy ever since it got to my business. And it started off with just job site cleanups, and we were doing some brush cutting around customers' jobs. We had a trencher, we got this grapple bucket for land clearing, and then we ended up moving into what we're doing today, which is more heavy land clearing, excavation work. So it's a benefit for us. It gives us control. You know, we have the ability to get it exactly how we want it. And then also the client, we're saving them money, because honestly, we're going to be able to do it cheaper and more efficiently than if we subbed it out to a bigger company. So, and
have more control over that process,
which is the biggest thing for me.
But that's not just a $75,000 purchase. I mean, you got a trailer, you got an F-350 that's got to pull that trailer. You've got maintenance,
insurance.
Can you give me any basics on what that financial looks like for you as a builder?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, we have a 1-ton flatbed truck, so it's actually a Chevrolet 3500.
Okay.
Bought it used, but you know, that's still a $35,000 truck by the time you get it outfitted the way that you want it. And then you're going to spend another, let's say, $8,000 on a trailer to haul it around with. So now we're, you know, $45,000 roughly on top of the skid steer. And then don't forget, now you got to have a CDL license. So either you got to go get that, or you got to have an employee that goes and gets that. Because anytime that your truck and trailer together is over 26,000 pounds on the GVWR rating, a Class A CDL is required. So all those things together, I mean, it's a big investment.
That's a big investment.
And now, luckily, that trailer can be used for other things. The truck gets used constantly. I mean, I don't know about you, but as a flatbed in a build company is so useful.
Yeah, we use it all the time.
It's constantly going somewhere. So, but collectively on the front end, if you're trying to get into it, it is expensive up front, but you know, you have to be able to bill it out. That's the thing. I mean, even my trim carpentry crew, they're expensive, but you got to bill it out, and it ends up paying for itself. So
now, how much more are we talking when you jump up to, is this considered a mini excavator? Am I saying that
It
term
is.
right?
It's still a mini X. That's a 60 from John Deere. Honestly, price-wise, it's about $10,000 more than this skid steer. So
Not that bad.
no, it's not crazy. But together, you know, you're nowadays, if you go buy 2 new ones, you're bumping $200,000 in equipment that you've got on job site. So no, it runs a lot more than our skid steer does. You know, it's
And
a
you
lot
can actually
more
excavate
versatile.
basements with this too?
Yeah. So even
Holy
the
cow.
60 horse machine like this one, we dig all of our basements with it. We do all our land clearing with it. Unless we hit it. You know, there's been a couple instances over the last, say, 2 years where we've hit a lot of rock. And so even though we can put a hammer on this one, we can go rent a hammer. We typically rent the machine too, just to save wear and tear. You know, it's really hard on your machine. Yeah, when you're hammering rock. Because on the river, we have a lot of rock here. So we do get into that pretty often. But I mean, everything from drainage to footers for retaining walls, seawalls, and there's just even electrical conduit ditches. Man, I can't even tell you all the random tasks that both of these machines really are used for on a daily basis. You know, and cleanup's a big thing to me, and that's really what got me excited on the front end about a skid steer too. I like nice clean job sites. I know you do too.
Yep.
And it's like I found myself calling my landscape company or my concrete guy and say, hey, can you bring your skid steer out? And then I'd get a bill for, you know, a couple $1,000 for 2 or 3 hours of labor. And I'm like, man, that's a pretty expensive cleanup considering it's going to be dirty again next week, you know? And so being able to run your own machine out there and then move material around, you know, with a set of forks is very, very useful too. So, but I think it kind of goes back to, you know, the power of self-performing as a builder. It puts more money in your pocket, you know?
I want to ask you about that too, because I know this isn't the only phase you self-perform. You also self-perform a lot of carpentry in your jobs too, right?
Yeah, and that's really what started my mind getting turned into like, okay, we should self-perform things because it wasn't long after I started the business. So we didn't get going until 2017. And I think by 2018, early 2019, I already had my trim carpenter on board with me. I realized that, you know, to build the caliber house that we're trying to do, you've got to have good finish work.
Yes,
you know, it really sets you apart from your competition to have really good finished work. And the carpenter that I was using, he was so hard to get. You know, I'd be ready for him, and then he had committed to 3 more jobs in front of me, and it was just this constant, like, well, we should wait on him, or we should hire the other guy. And so I finally talked Tim into just coming to work for me full time. And honestly, I was nervous about that because I'm like, that's a big number to bring you on the payroll.
For sure.
But then when you back into what you're subbing that out for on every single house, it really makes sense. And so we actually have since then added another carpentry crew. So we have 2 full-time crews going now.
That's fantastic.
And again, that's the whole control thing.
And the other thing about finish carpenters that we can't remiss, and Will and I were talking about this prior to the start of the video, is when you have a great finish carpenter, now you've also got somebody who can help you on a warranty issue, on a customer service issue, on a small job that you've got for a client that you're making sure that they're a happy client, so you'll build their next house in a couple of years. That finish carpenter is a really key hire. And if I look at all of my building friends, most of them do some amount of finish carpentry long before they ever consider rough carpentry or maybe some of the other trades. Even though I know there are builders that have mechanical in-house or plumbing in-house or some other things. I think finish carpentry is a really great place to start. Find a really good finish carpenter that can do all kinds of stuff for you. I don't have any finish carpenters on staff anymore, Will. I used to have several, but currently I've got 5 guys on my team that do a little bit of everything, kind of like your guys do, and that's super helpful for me. And some of them do some carpentry work. Some of them do a little bit of everything, including some architectural metal fab, and having that ability to self-perform is huge. Now, you and I are both cost-plus builders,
Right.
so we can actually build that. But I want to, before we finish the video, I want to talk about how you own the equipment and how you bill your people, because I think this is key for us as builders.
So basically, you know, we finance our equipment. You know, that's no surprise there. Back when I bought this one, John Deere was doing like 0%. So that helps cash flow, right? Because if you go dump 85 grand, you know, you've got to be able to support that. So as far as buying it, that's how we do it. And then, you know, you got to look at the monthly cost. And so, you know, I think you got to look at your payment. And I think full disclosure, it's about $1,500 a month on this one machine, plus fuel, plus maintenance. So you're probably, just say $2 grand a month that you have to bring in to offset your cost.
That's right.
And so when we look at across the board on our jobs, you know, every job has some level of equipment rental built into it, right? Because you know, if either you own a skid steer or you're going to have to go rent one.
That's right.
At some point, or hire one to come in. So we do it by the hour is how we end up doing it, because we build in allowances on every project, and then it gets billed on an hourly rate. And in projects like this, you know, it's really hard to, I don't hard bid them, you know, I basically look at it and we estimate how long it's going to take. And then we back that in by the hourly rate, and then we give the customer a range, and they understand that it is an hourly basis, and it's, you know, cost plus on material, like gravel, for example.
That's what we do too.
And so, and they appreciate that, because like in this instance, he's out here watching, he knows the hours they're putting in, he appreciates their work. And so that's been the best model for us. And so just trying to look at it on a year of, you know, can we bring in enough revenue every month to cover its cost and also pay that employee? Because again, that's just the equipment cost, that's not the operator.
And the only thing I would add to that is I've moved to a separate labor company and a separate equipment owning company.
So smart. I really
that
wish
builds
we could do
my
that.
primary building company. So when I've got material, or I should say when I have equipment on the job, I don't have skid steers, but I have a lot of other equipment, including a lot of temporary HVAC equipment, things like that. That invoice is coming to my building company from my rental company. Now, of course, you have to disclose that, right? At our contract signing with our clients, I have a full document that says, hey, full disclosure, we own this company, and here's the rates that we're going to be charging you, and these rates are below market by a certain percentage. So if you were to go out and see how much that costs from a rental company, we're charging less. So it's a benefit for you, and it's also a benefit for me. And then the way I talk about cost plus to my clients, I think is worth having a quick conversation for these guys. You know, some people are afraid of cost plus because they're worried that, oh, you have a blank check. But for me, I really believe like we sit on the same side of the table when it's cost plus. Everything's open book. You can see what my company charges, what we're making. And then I don't have this hard bid from an outside subcontractor that they bid it so that they can go to Hawaii if they get the bid. They bid it with a much, much higher profit margin than maybe someone else did, whatever. Everything's really disclosed and is very up and up. And I really like that feeling of sitting on the same side of the table with my clients and saying together, look, you're gonna bear the risk, Mr. Client, but the reward is you're not gonna pay an exorbitant fee to get a fixed price on everything. And together, we're gonna manage this process and make sure that we get you the best built house at the cost that it costs, at the reasonable cost.
And we're building such custom homes that are so, like, they're high performance, and I don't know about yours, maybe it's just me, but it's ever changing, you know, like these, there's always, and you never built the same house twice, and so it's very unique, and I really don't even know how you would go about trying to hard bid a job like that. And I think
so hard.
You can explain that to customers, they really understand it, and that's just how we've been since day one, honestly, just from talking to guys like you and figuring out what's the best way to go about it. So I agree.
It's the way to go, I think, for custom homes of this caliber.
Yep.
Well, appreciate the conversation, guys. If you don't know Will King, he actually has several videos that are related to this topic already that you shot that kind of made me think about this on buildshownetwork.com. I'll link to some of those below. He's shooting videos on a weekly basis. You should also go follow him on Instagram at Will King Builds.
That's right.
And his company is High Cotton Homes, based in Alabama, and Muscle Shoals is kind of your home base, but you build around, and we're at a rural Alabama job site here, which is a bit of a hike from your office. So thank you for having me out to the job site
absolutely,
today.
man. Thanks for coming out. This has been fun.
It's been really fun. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here that's based on pro to pro. We're always talking to other pros out there every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on TikTok or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.